Today, 80% of the businesses that are investing in business applications also have an HRMS software in place. But how many of them are really doing the required digital onboarding? It's important to prioritize which is the low-hanging fruit and how fast we can get through the automation journey. You might want to outsource a particular business function, or you might want to look at reconfiguring the existing systems and then move into the automation model.
All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of this fantastic podcast with one of my favorites, Saurabh Banerjee. He's a recent addition in our team and is leading the Center of Excellence of Intelligent Automation. And this is one of the podcasts that I've been really looking forward to for many days because I myself find this topic to be not only interesting, but something that I need to learn so much about. And with Saurabh having such a wonderful experience, I think there is no better person to have this podcast with. So Saurabh's got 20 years of consulting under his belt. He's seen the tech industry do a complete 180 from point solutions to massive enterprise apps. He's been there, done that. And he's a true tech junkie. He loves staying on top of latest trends, always reading and thinking about the future of digital transformation and information technology. Saurabh, welcome to this podcast.
Thank you so much, Arvind. Thank you for having me on the show. And I have been eagerly looking forward to this podcast for the last couple of weeks. Indeed, over the last 20 years, I have spent a lot of time understanding different business applications, right across the board, a lot of discussions with a lot of CXOs, understanding a lot of industry pain points. And I've seen the industry, evaluate, complex to simple solutions. But at the same time, I've seen how businesses have evolved into implementing applications that at some point were quite modernized, but at some point also got into bottlenecks, looking at legacy applications, and then emerging technologies. That is the next thing on board. But today, when we talk about emerging technologies, I think the entire ocean is quite huge.
Absolutely. And there are so many new and amazing platforms that are available now. Even in just the last couple of years, the industry just continues to evolve. And it's fascinating to have you and have this conversation. I would like to set some context though here. So who is this podcast for and who might find value in this? So I feel like this is first and foremost for some of our future clients who would get an understanding of intelligent automation in a more layman format. It's also for the future leaders who aspire to be in a position where you are. So sharing your inspiring story would be another important element of this podcast. And last but not least, because we're a global company with employees all over the globe, I would like the employees to get to know you a little bit more, especially the US team and some of the other folks that are working in different geographies, because they may not have this opportunity to sit across with you. And I had this pleasure over the last 4 weeks while I spent here in the India office, and then even earlier as well, we've had some fantastic conversations. So that's the goal. And with that goal in mind, I guess, why don't we begin with a little bit of your personal background? So where are you from and what got you started into this field? How did you get started? And did you always want to be, doing what you're doing today?
Well, this is interesting. So I'm based out of New Delhi, India. And I pretty much did my schooling from St. Columbus, graduated into business administration, and then took up my first role into the outsourcing industry, worked with some of the Fortune 100 and 500 businesses. But with time, I realized tech consulting is something that I wanted to explore, considering the sheer scope of the landscape. And I realized at some point when I was part of an organization doing sales, I did exceptionally well selling technology. I got into tech, did a little bit of product sales, got deeper into understanding customer points of engagement, and then, of course, gradually got into the larger landscape, which was hardcore consulting. But yes, that's a little bit about me.
Fantastic. So I guess for the audience as well, what do you really do for Copper Digital? And allow me to maybe explain from my perspective, and then you could also add your input to it. So I had this idea that we want to be an organization that has a lot of independent departments and divisions that are specializing in a certain technology, different center of excellences, and they're targeting different geographies. And with that idea, I interviewed hundreds of people and found a handful of ones who I resonated with. And of course, we had some great conversations, some interesting conversations. And the field that you are in of intelligent automation with pieces of robotic process automation, I think that's just so interesting. And our mission has always been, as an organization, to help our customers be more efficient, increase revenue, reduce cost, eliminate paper-based processes. And we were doing that for the longest time for the US-based clients using mobile and web applications and then other solutions. But now, with the advent of more powerful tools and platforms in AI, and then also with the robotic process automation, I think this has become just so essential in our mission. And that's why I wanted to make sure that we have this technology in our arsenal. And, so according to me, you are an entrepreneur who has the P&L responsibility, who is on a mission to help Copper Digital clients be more efficient and automate processes, eliminate, those mundane tasks, and have an army of these software robots that could free up employees from doing those tedious jobs and instead help them do a more meaningful kind of work. So that's why I got you on board. What do you think, Saurabh?
Well, I think pretty much on those lines. And considering the fact that a lot of organizations have been grappling with a lot of legacy systems, trying to transition their entire workforce into adopting the digital transformation journey, focusing on the entire start to growth transition as part of their investments. Surprisingly, you'll be surprised to know that maybe just 1% of the businesses that have invested in the digital solutions have really seen success, while 70% of a lot of these investments have actually failed, according to McKinsey. And with $900 billion of revenue cost has actually got lost. Quite honestly, as an organization, I think when we meet a lot of our customers, they have highlighted the fact that they're not very clear what is the start point when it comes to transitioning the entire automation journey. I think today businesses have realized, whether it is supply chain, manufacturing, back office, banking and finance operations, that today the sheer volume of the records they have to manage, whether it is invoice processing, are so prone to errors. Kind of getting accountability on the amount of revenue lost has become very difficult. So as Copper Digital, I think we have full house capability in implementing, first, I would say, an entire end-to-end automation journey for the customer. We follow industry recognized processes, right from process evaluation to process discovery and getting to the implementation cycle.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if someone in the audience is responsible for IT and is responsible for operations, then I guess in layman terms, can you explain what is intelligent automation and how is it different from robotic process automation, RPA? I mean, what are these buzzwords all about?
Well, I think there was a start point before the digital transformation actually kicked in. So robotic process automation is primarily an on-premise platform with limited capability to scale across the board, and also limited opportunities when it comes to automating some business processes. A lot of businesses have kind of invested in silos, looking at robotic process automation as a sheer means to automate some of their basic operations, to get an understanding about what is automation all about. But when it comes to scalability and building AI and ML capabilities, it is intelligent automation, considering the hyper automation model. Today, if we talk about democratizing and adopting enterprise-wide employee-level automation journeys through a citizen development, that is primarily facilitated through the intelligent automation model than robotic process automation. So RPA is, I could say, like the base foundation of building the automation journey. But when we talk about an end-to-end process map where you're able to identify a growth model through ROI. I think intelligent automation is basically the solution.
Got it. Got it. So from what I understand, I guess robotic process automation only takes you so far, but when you do this end to end with AI capabilities, then it becomes more of intelligent automation. Would that be a fair way to put it?
Absolutely. So, for example, if I have to evaluate maybe an entire business function and be able to create process maps, we use advanced AI capabilities, ML models built within the intelligent automation platform, which is quite often missing in robotic process automation.
Got it. Got it. And at times, if someone is a business owner and perhaps a medium-sized enterprise, they may not have heard of, a lot of these buzzwords. The feeling that it gives from when we talk about robotic process automation is like there's an army of robots, right? Instead of the employees, there are robots that are running around. I mean, obviously, we know that that's not what it is. These are software bots. These are like more similar to maybe a chatbot that is able to understand the intent and reply. So these are bots, but not just for chatting. These are bots that could do whatever job an employee is doing. And that is very well structured and that's repeated on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, something that requires some manual touch. We are able to take that and then automate that. And I guess that is for the layman understanding robotic process automation. And then you add AI to it, then that's the intelligent automation.
Absolutely. That is right. So the way businesses kind of look at automating their entire transition is obviously, a lot of times when we talk to a lot of our workforce, the moment we use the word robot, of course, robot predominantly has been hardware, Industry 4 revolution kind of an engagement, often used in the manufacturing space. But when you talk about intelligent automation and robotic process automation, we are primarily referring to software robotics, which is completely digital engagements, looking at the best way that we can cut down the number of errors, reduce the turnaround time, and also be able to improve the accuracy level across production lines. So software robotics does not really, it's not like a physical robot that you see. These are primarily built on, software applications. These are cloud native solutions, which are running 24 hours, 365 days a year, hardly do any mistakes, unlike a lot of the workforce, whether it's typing, whether it is data entry, whether it is entering information across business application, or for that matter, even complex business use cases, such as creating, let's say, very comprehensive financial statement. So today, the CXO who's spending, let's say, almost a quarter to probably compile an entire financial statement could probably do that in the span of a couple of days, maybe even less, using the digital bots. One of the top use cases I really wanted to share would be where, imagine if you had 10 of your CEOs really doing a lot of data processing, compiling information across their business functions. Could be HR, sales, marketing, could be supply chain, primarily with the purpose of creating a very comprehensive report and then somehow ensuring maybe the top leadership gets access, just to realize maybe some part of the information was not captured. Imagine the amount of time that is lost creating that data and has to be redone. So that's a lot of time that is lost. So today, when we look at try to cut down the number of errors, and beyond that, also the revenue that can be saved, I think intelligent automation is the best way going forward.
Got it. Now that makes sense. Of course, there are a lot of different industries that we serve, and even intelligent automation at times applies across different verticals. But what do you think, where is the maximum benefit? What is the low-hanging fruit in terms of vertical? I know we could go department-wise as well, and I have my opinion on that. But vertical-wise, which vertical is going to see the maximum benefit of intelligent automation?
That's a great question. So intelligent automation is primarily agnostic to any industry, whether it is retail, whether it is oil and gas, could be telecommunications, it could also be the supply chain, but logistics, considering that most of these industries have very finely business applications, could be a high-tech Oracle or an SAP software. So the purpose is wherever you need to automate a lot of your business communication, etc. We have a use case over there. If we talk about the BFSI sector specifically, today a lot of organizations, whether it is accounts payable or receivable, they kind of look at try to cut down the time they have to pay the vendor payments, make the vendor payments. So I think from that use case, organizations want to cut down the entire cycle time from the time they are receiving the invoices from a supplier to processing, extracting that information using OCR capabilities, entering that into financial accounting system, and automatically having the payments go out. On the retail side of of the industry, to the contrary, where you have a lot of warehouse operations taking place. Imagine if we have a POS. Think of an organization which has around 500 retail stores, and you have a bunch of SKUs that have to go out, and somebody at the POS or maybe the store level has to keep on placing orders to replenish the SKUs. Imagine if he or she misses placing an order for the SKU, and what happens? That's a lot of customers that you actually lost revenue to, because if the product is not there in the market for you to sell, somebody else is going to be able to take up that market segment for you.
So there's obviously that lost revenue in retail, then in financial as well. I mean, you cannot afford to make errors, in logistics as well. Your shipment delayed means, that could have a cascading effect. But I guess that's like every single industry then. So maybe then the way to look at like which industry would have the maximum impact. And I think the ones that have the maximum to lose, right? So in that case, I think financial industry, of course, has traditionally been, very risk prone. So maybe the adoption is going to be quicker in the fintech space, like you describe it as BFSI. I guess even logistics and manufacturing, I mean, they're not too far off either, and retail. So I guess there is no right answer there. It maybe depends on the scale of the organization, and it depends on, the kinds of tasks that the workforce is managing that can be automated, and what benefit calculation they could do to calculate the ROI. Because once you map the process, you automate the process, boom, then you don't have to touch it. Of course, if anything changes, then you can tweak that, but you could continue to just do this type of automation on a lot of different processes. So I guess, could we maybe pick a department then within an organization? Let's say it has lots of benefits, for across different verticals. But what about the departments like sales and marketing or customer support or finance or HR? Which one of these do you think would have the maximum bang for the buck? I want to put you on the spot here because I really want to know, who should, if I have all these departments as an organization, where should I experiment first?
I would say, I think people first, any organization that believes in a highly satisfied workforce should actually start from the human resource function. We talk about the hiring, or rather the recruitments to the retirement phase of every employee. One of the core challenges would be, if you could fully digitize the entire onboarding process. Today, 80% of the businesses that are, investing in business applications also have an HRMS software in place. But how many of them are really doing the required digital onboarding versus still having pen and paper in place? So imagine if we could have a fully digital experience where through RPA, the bots can actually log into the HRMS software, have a forms go out to the employee who needs to join the organization, have the entire form filled out for the joining formalities, and hits the submit button. And from there, you start, that's the trigger point where, the entire documents, could be his experience documents, certificates, all of that is fully updated into the HRMS software by the bot, followed by maybe your expense and receipts. So, a lot of organizations still have a manual review process.
Sorry to cut you off there, but even in onboarding, there are more steps, right? Like creating an email address and then adding them with the right permissions at the right, in the right software. So can all of that be also done using intelligent automation?
Absolutely. So most organizations have a very standardized process of creating email addresses as well. So there could be a process where, let's say, an employee once their form has been filled out and he or she hits the submit button. Through intelligent automation, the bots can automatically trigger a decision into the IT system. The HR function sends them a notification that the employee onboarding is in progress, and the entire email address is automatically created. Let's say and once the email ID is created, and an introduction email goes out about the employee that, okay, hey, we have a new employee, get them on board. As far as the payroll function is concerned, interestingly, towards the end of the month, obviously a lot of employees would have taken a couple of leaves, sick leaves or PLs, which is often dependent on approvals from the line managers. But if organizations could look at fully automating that process of approval, that once the leaves are approved, the bot knows in the system, based on the log files and the reports that are available, that the employee has approved leaves, and for whatever leave balances are there, it can now calculate the entire paycheck that needs to be paid out, and can then forward that information into the finance team, and from there, the entire pay cycle happens through the gateway. So what is happening? The entire employee journey is only to the point that we make sure that the employee records are updated, and end of the month maybe we could have a faster pay cycle.
Got it. Interesting. Now, I mean, this at times, certain organizations may feel like this is a never-ending project. This is something that you could continue to do and go another level of automation and take new processes and, just continue on and on and on. But with every process that you take and do the intelligent automation, I think you become a stronger organization that requires less manpower to do that. And of course, that means cost saving. That also means fewer errors. So super interesting. How long do you think is this journey typically for somebody who may not have yet dabbled into the intelligent automation, but let's say they're a Microsoft shop and they want to try their hands on it. How long of a journey is this, or is there an end to it?
Well, we can briefly divide the entire transition right from start to hyper automation into 7 pillars. I would say there's a start journey to that, where 20% of the organizations looking at low hanging fruits, while 90% of the businesses look at the growth model, where they look at stakeholder buy-in across the board, which is not necessarily just the HR function. You could also have your finance function automated. You could probably have your administrative function automated as well, your procurement function automated, and even maybe the smaller tasks. And 90% of the businesses that are focused on stabilizing their existing automation, development and delivery center. What is interesting is nearly 30% of these organizations that have transitioned ultimately look at upskilling their existing workforce so that they can contribute to the ideation pipeline, which is primarily where you look at planning, automating your enterprise level, rather moving into an enterprise-wide automation journey. And this is where we talk about the ideation funnel. Think about an organization which has probably 2,000 or 5,000 employees. And if they could just look at automating some of their tasks, something very basic. You don't have to be a software programmer or a RPA developer. You could just use low-code, no-code technology. You could just be a citizen development leader. Be able to automate some tasks which is available to the COE leader on the dashboard. And that can be used to further filter out processes that can be automated using the ROI definition, and then look at an enterprise level democratization rather of the entire automation journey and hyperscale. And this is where 10% of the businesses succeed. Once you hyperscale, you will always have an opportunity to further optimize. Look at the fact wherever you might have further opportunities to maybe reconfigure your existing system, identify the best path going forward, and prioritize further automation opportunities.
Interesting. So I guess then the short answer is that there are different levels of automation, and you can, of course, continue to compound those benefits as you move through this journey and get to really that ideation phase where you're innovating and coming up with new and better ways, and maybe even testing out something completely new to achieve next level of efficiency and that competitive edge that everyone looks for. I guess with that said, if I'm a business owner who has this responsibility of digital transformation, of bringing in this intelligent automation in my organization, then how would I evaluate what are the right tools and platforms to invest in? Because, I mean, we are agnostic of the platforms as an organization. We can help our customers, that may be working on Power Platforms. That's from Microsoft, Power Automate, as well. And then there could be UiPath, there could be Automation Anywhere, Automation Edge, and I think there may be a few others as well. But I mean, these are the ones that at least we are partnered with. But how do you decide which one is best for you out of I guess these top ones who have the majority of the market share?
Well, now that's a very strategic question, Arvind, for the primary reason that a lot of enterprise organizations, while there is a lot of flexibility in selecting between these platforms, and they are equally capable of delivering, highly sustainable transition models. But as an organization, for me, what is important is my current adoption to these technologies. So if I would also like to look at a learning curve. Now, if I'm an organization which has already deployed, let's say a Microsoft ecosystem, I might prefer going in with Microsoft Power Automate or the Power Platform. Businesses that feel today that they're kind of looking at a very while they're tech agnostic, but they might be completely neutral to their choice of technology. They might actually go for either Automation Anywhere or UiPath for that matter. So that's a difficult choice, but I would say 99% of the enterprise businesses focus on Power Platforms, which is a combination of Power Automate and also Power Apps, especially when they're looking at digitizing the entire workforce and move out of the pen and paper model, and also be able to integrate that entire journey within the same ecosystem. So Microsoft Power Automate per se is able to integrate into a lot of business applications like Power BI, SharePoint, and whatever data that needs to be transitioned, from different business applications, and still be able to use the existing Microsoft suite of applications. On the other hand, an organization which may not be using the Microsoft subscription might be quite open to using either a UiPath or Automation Anywhere, or they might just have a very localized requirement of maybe digitizing of a specific business function. They might be happy to look at either UiPath or Automation Anywhere to find a specific use case, transition that, and then be able to further kind of adapt, rather transition into kind of automating other business processes. Another classic use case is, there is a saying that you may not want to put all your eggs in one basket. So quite often, larger organizations may not want to just concentrate on implementing one OEM. Just to have a contingency plan in place. So they would actually go for combination of either UiPath, Automation Anywhere, on also Microsoft, depending on what processes they might want to automate. So what happens is, in a case, maybe in a situation where either any one of the implementations is actually probably has malfunctioned, or either of the three solutions is probably maybe the bots didn't do a particular process, and in that case, what will happen is rest of your automation engagements continue. So it's just like a microservices. You make sure that in case there's a breakdown on the application, the entire application doesn't stop working. Maybe some components of your application work. So similarly, in intelligent automation, you have to make sure there's continuity in other parts of the business.
Got it. No, that's a good answer. Now, again, our goal is to educate, potential customers. So what about the cost difference? Like, we could, be completely transparent here. I think there are two types of costs, right? One is the cost of implementing it. So that'll be our developers, that are sitting here, and like there may be certain developers that come at a higher price. So that implementation cost. And then the second one is the cost of the license. A lot of the organizations may already have Power Automate included in their license, or Power Platforms or Power Apps included in their license. So can you give some information on the cost of license, or is it pretty much similar for across the board?
Well, so when we talk about the licensing cost, Automation Anywhere, since they have, they have the most experience in the market, and they have the maximum number of use cases, are definitely the top. They're in the top segment, number one, and a premium licensing model versus UiPath and Microsoft. Microsoft is very, it's fairly cheaper as compared to the rest of the OEMs, considering that a lot of our, existing laptops, specifically Windows-based laptops, actually have a lot of their licenses built in. So enterprise businesses, who want to specifically start with, let's say, a citizen development model, they would actually prefer going with the Microsoft a model where they can comfortably, at a very negligible to zero cost, be able to uplift the workforce into adopting the automation journey. On the other hand, when we talk about UiPath and Automation Anywhere, a lot of organizations might want to still go with a lot of players who are still much mature and older into the system. So Microsoft on one side focuses more on the RP side of the implementation, while UiPath and Automation Anywhere look at the intelligent automation side of the practice. End outcomes are quite similar. Investments are just as heavy across the three boards. And I would say, they're fully compliant SOC 1, SOC 2, type 2 certifications, GDPR compliant. They all have privacy gateways in place to make sure information is absolutely secure. One other reason that a lot of clients might prefer one particular OEM over the other could be also the way the data center, rather the way these applications are hosted, and also government regulations which mandate that the data centers need to be in a particular country. So maybe for a country, let's say in India, maybe Microsoft has a data center based out of Mumbai or Bangalore, but maybe Automation Anywhere and UiPath might have their data centers based out of another geographic location, which may or may not fulfill the government regulatory requirements. Or it could also be the other way around, where maybe Automation Anywhere and UiPath might have their data centers well within the geographic locations, but maybe Microsoft might have the data center in some other country. So I think there is a choice of these applications as well.
Got it. So again, it's hard to go wrong, but the main decision that a leader needs to take is that intelligent automation can provide next level of efficiency. It doesn't matter which platform you use, but it's going to have some significant savings, and not only in cost and man hours, but also the quality of service and the number of errors, and that would be reduced to almost zero. What do you think are some common misconceptions that you come across as you're talking to a lot of these prospects, trying to evangelize this idea of helping the organization do this intelligent automation so that the workforce can do more meaningful tasks instead of the mundane and tedious everyday repeated tasks? Like, what are some misconceptions that leaders typically have?
So one of the biggest misconception is while we're building capacity, the first thing that comes up is job losses. And the first thing that I think I would like to clarify is when computers were invented, rather they were introduced into the corporate space maybe a couple of decades back, there was a lot of fear that introduction to computers and computer science is going to take away a lot of jobs. But on to the contrary, it created a lot of employment opportunities. And I can tell you, I've been part of the transition at least a decade back when artificial intelligence was pretty much going through a development phase. And there was a lot of hue and cry about artificial intelligence automating a lot of job functions to the point that people will actually not have jobs to do. But today, again, it's the other way around. Today, even the smartwatch that we wear or the smartphone that we use, it has AI and ML capabilities to make sure that we have the most personalized experience in the services. And that is exactly what is happening in intelligent automation. Today, I would indicate a majority of the workforce, specifically the ones right at the front line, they feel a lot of their educational qualifications are not being put to full use, limited to just doing a lot of clerical jobs, and they get frustrated quite easily. Whether it's an engineer, it could be a business management graduate. They want to really use their skills to get more into the strategic side of the business. So this is just the right time to make sure that we have better roles created for a lot of people entering the corporate space. At the same time, building capacity to make sure that the workforce is satisfied and they have more strategic thinking to do. Intelligent automation is primarily there to work in an attentive model for that if I want to run, I send a lot of marketing emails to a lot of my customers. I've been actually working on a citizen development to automate my email campaigns beyond the normal CRM, and it could just free up 90% of my time, and I can spend more time in customer meetings. So these are some of the fantastic use cases.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that is the number one misconception that you're saying that, hey, you know what? I don't want to be a leader who's responsible for cutting a lot of these jobs. You're not really cutting employment, but instead you're giving them more meaningful work, more creative work, and allowing them to have that job satisfaction instead of just having to do something that's tedious and mundane. Understood. So I guess I'd like to know then if I am an operations leader, if I'm a leader, a business owner who wants to take this first step and is very confused. It's like, okay, well, where do I begin? Then can you lay out like a strategy, like how should they go about adopting intelligent automation into their organization? What would be step 1, step 2, step 3, I guess?
Well, so primarily at a stakeholder level, I think it's important to be able to look at redefining the way we are kind of running the businesses. I think step 1 is being able to identify those lines of business where you want to optimize and get the ROI at the earliest. Could be it could be human resource. It could be it could also be your supply chain setup. It could also be your sales and marketing lines of business. But once you've identified, and these could also be processes that you've probably, as a business owner, you may not have even documented this. Then it's also important to be able to find variations in these businesses. So, the next step is basically to be able to identify what are the process variations that we have, and see is there a way that we can have a shorter route to running these businesses. So once we define the path going forward based on the variations, it's important to prioritize which is the low-hanging fruit and how fast we can get through the automation journey, which might also mean that you might want to outsource a particular business function, or you might want to look at reconfiguring the existing systems and then move into the automation model.
Got it. So I guess then the steps would be to identify first where you have the low-hanging fruit and where you could have the maximum impact. But let's say it's a hard decision, and if a leader is not able to identify, I know that when we were speaking to a Fortune 500 organization earlier, you also suggested that there are now these sensor apps that would be installed on various machines of different functions that are done in an organization that would take a screenshot of all the different types of things. Like every few seconds, there may be a screenshot, and then AI can figure out, okay, well, this is the amount of time that's being spent in various applications, and maybe even give you some recommendations on, all right, you definitely need to automate this task or that task or, this function, because that's going to give you the best bang for the buck. So how do customers get access to those sensor apps? Can you share some information about that?
Sure. So this is primarily this is primarily the process discovery step. So we have, across all the OEMs, whether it is Microsoft or Automation Anywhere or UiPath for that matter. These are all cloud native tools that are there within the system. It's quite simple. Let's say I have a workforce of 10,000 employees and I need to look at multiple business functions. The sensors can be very comfortably be implemented on all the workstations. And at the background, what it does is based on ML capabilities, it just captures our footprint in terms of how the business application is being used. For example, I could be a production worker working on an entire ERP suite. I could also be working on a CRM application to access customer information, be able to match all of that information. I have another workforce of 1,000-odd people working on the same ERP application and another CRM. We'll all have different priorities considering the different modules that are there. So with process discovery, it can create a very comprehensive map across different roles, geographies, and show you the variations that are there. This is only possible for organizations which are, let's say, which should ideally have at least 3,000 odd employees with at least $100,000 in recurring revenue. But top takeaway is, once you have the process map ready, you'll be able to prioritize which is the best way to run your business operations and at the shortest way to optimizing the business operations through intelligent automation.
Got it. So pretty much every platform has this type of a sensor app that can give you these recommendations as well. So I guess all you need is a will. But then if you still find yourself stuck and not able to decide or come up with a roadmap, then you have companies like us who love to be the concierge and do a little bit of hand-holding or give you some ideas or suggestions. And of course, then how can they reach you, Saurabh?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So considering that we have full in-house capability in terms of driving whether it's process mapping and the process discovery, we're able to provide end-to-end consulting capabilities, then followed by implementation and post-implementation managed services. I'm reachable on my email address, which is saurabh.b@corporatedigital.com. I can also connect on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to provide insights, even if, in fact, be able to set up a meeting and even do POC at a very exclusive offer.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Or of course, they could go to corporatedigital.com and then, fill out a form, and we'll try to give as many prospects as possible with, at least a free consultation so we could be there. Because, that's really our mission. We want to be able to help as many customers as possible and guide them in the right direction. And a lot of times, once they've done this initial conversation with you, they may be able to do some steps themselves, and they may not need as much of that hand-holding because, as you mentioned, a lot of these tools are very easy to use. They're low code, no code. But of course, if you're stuck anywhere, or if you want to know what are the other customers that are most similar to you doing and what are they automating and what kind of ROI they can get, or if you need some help in creating a business case to socialize this internally or to your bosses, then of course we're here to help. And, this is what gets us out of bed. This is our passion. And, of course, feel free to reach out to us. Awesome, Saurabh. Well, thank you so much for your time here. I'm sure there is so much value that you have offered through this podcast. And I want to thank you for your time, and looking forward to really helping as many customers as possible through amazing intelligent automation journey that we've embarked on.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all mine, and we look forward to helping a lot of our clients.
Fantastic. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.